We are ready for your arrival, Admiral.
Something is not right here.
The Veyran Dominion had conquered 317 worlds. So when Admiral Kale Voss ordered Earth to surrender within 72 hours, he expected the usual response: panic. Instead, the woman on his screen smiled. "We'll need all 72. Voss stared at her. For the first time in centuries, a conquered world sounded relieved to receive an ultimatum. That bothered him. Earth was primitive by every measure the Dominion respected. No faster than light ships. No planetary shields. No interstellar fleet. Its strongest weapons were chemical missiles and nuclear warheads, crude devices the Veyrans considered obsolete. The planet should have been terrified. Instead, the human woman sat perfectly still. Admiral Voss studied her through the holographic transmission. She was small by Veyran standards. Auburn hair was pulled into a neat ponytail. Her dark navy suit was simple, almost painfully ordinary. No armor, no visible weapon, no ceremonial insignia. Only her eyes stood out. Blue-green. "Come. What is your name?" Voss asked. "Elena Ward, Emergency Diplomatic Representative for the United Nations." "You understand our demand?" "Perfectly. Your civilization has 72 hours to surrender all military authority, planetary sovereignty, and strategic assets to the Veyran Dominion." "I understand. And if you refuse?" Elena looked directly into his 4 amber eyes. "You will discover why we asked for the full 72 hours." Voss leaned forward. "That sounds like a threat." "It is not." "Then what is it?" Elena paused. "A courtesy." The transmission ended. For several seconds, nobody in the Veyran command chamber spoke. Then General Therk laughed. His deep red-brown scales rippled across his enormous armored frame. "A courtesy?" Several officers joined him. Voss did not. He had conquered worlds because he knew when something was wrong. And something was wrong. "Bring up Earth," he ordered. The chamber darkened as a hologram appeared. Blue oceans. White clouds. Green continents. The fleet surrounded the planet like a ring of black stars. 340 warships. 27 assault vessels. 6 command carriers. Earth had nothing comparable. "Surface military forces?" Voss asked. "Primitive." "Orbital defense?" "Negligible." "Fleet?" "None." "Population?" 8 billion, approximately. General Therk folded his massive arms. "Then this is over." Voss watched Earth rotate. Why did she ask for 72 hours? "Fear," Therk said. "No." Therk looked at him. "No. Fear makes civilizations bargain." She did not bargain. Voss enlarged the diplomatic transmission and replayed Elena's final expression. That smile. It had not been arrogance. It had not been desperation. It looked almost like relief. "Monitor every major human communication channel," Voss ordered. "I want troop movements, weapons activity, government orders, civilian evacuation plans. Everything." The science officer, Sierra Ven, nodded. "Admiral, if I may ask, what are you expecting?" Voss looked at Earth. "I don't know." That answer unsettled the room more than any threat could have. For the next 6 hours, the Veyrans watched. They expected chaos. Instead, Earth became strangely organized. Nations that had spent decades arguing suddenly began sharing military intelligence. Border forces stood down. Commercial satellites changed their orbital patterns. Air traffic was redirected. Emergency broadcasts appeared across every continent. Then something stranger happened. Cities began going dark. Not destroyed. Simply shut down. One district disappeared from the grid. Then another. Then an entire metropolitan region. Sierra Ven watched the energy map change. "Admiral, power consumption is dropping." "Industrial shutdown?" "Some of it." "Some?" She hesitated. "The pattern doesn't match evacuation." "What does it match?" "I don't know." Voss hated that answer. Another city disappeared. Then another. Across the planet, millions of lights went dark. General Therk smiled. They are surrendering already. Voss did not answer. He zoomed into the northern hemisphere. Something was moving beneath the surface. Not armies. Not vehicles. Heat signatures. Thousands of them. Then tens of thousands. Sierra Ven noticed them too. Admiral. I see them. The underground readings stretched beneath cities, deserts, mountains, and oceans. Sierra checked the geological scans. That is the strange part. How old? She swallowed. Some of these structures predate the current human political era. Therk's smile vanished. Impossible. Sierra continued scanning. Some appear to have been constructed in stages. How many stages? Decades. The chamber became silent. Voss looked again at Earth. The same planet he had considered helpless now seemed different. Not stronger. Just less understandable. Can we identify their purpose? He asked. Sierra shook her head. Not yet. Population? Unknown. Military? Unknown. Find out. Sierra turned toward her station. Voss remained focused on the planet. For the first time, he wondered whether the 72 hours were not a gift the Dominion had given humanity. Perhaps they were a gift humanity had been given by the Dominion. He hated the thought. Then another alert appeared. A new signal had emerged from Earth. Not a military transmission. Not a diplomatic message. A simple planetary synchronization pulse. Sierra's face changed. Admiral. What? That signal just repeated. From where? She looked at the data. Her voice became quieter. Everywhere. Voss stared at the planet. The pulse was appearing across Earth's surface, from cities that were supposedly shutting down. From deserts. From oceans. From mountains. The planet seemed to be answering itself. Then Alina Ward appeared on the communication screen again. Voss accepted the transmission. Her expression was unchanged. Calm. Control. Almost gentle. You are watching us, she said. Voss narrowed his eyes. Yes. I know. Tell me what we are seeing. Elena glanced away from the camera for the first time. For half a second, something passed across her face. Not fear. Calculation. Then she looked back. You are seeing Earth prepare. For war. Elena smiled. No, Admiral. She leaned slightly toward the camera. You are seeing Earth disappear. The transmission ended. Voss stood motionless. Behind him, the holographic planet continued turning. Blue. White. And suddenly, for the first time since the Veyran fleet had entered the solar system, Admiral Kale Voss understood something terrifying. The 72-hour countdown was still running. But he no longer knew who was actually counting now. Admiral Kale Voss had spent 6 hours watching Earth disappear. Not explode. Not burn. Disappear. Across the planet, lights were shutting down with unnatural precision. Entire districts went dark, then transportation hubs, factories, ports, and communication centers. Nothing about it looked like a military collapse. It looked deliberate. Voss stood before the command window, arms folded behind his back, watching the blue world turn beneath the Veyran fleet. Report, he said. Doctor. Sierra Ven approached the console. 38% of Earth's surface power consumption has vanished. Casualties? None detected. Riots? None. Military mobilization? Minimal. Voss turned. Then what the hell are they doing? Sierra hesitated. We don't know. General Therk gave a low growl from behind them. They're hiding. Voss looked at him. That much is obvious. Then bombard the surface. No. Therk's golden eyes narrowed. No. If they are hiding something, I want to know what it is before we destroy it. The general looked ready to argue, but Voss raised one hand. Scan beneath the cities. Sierra activated the deep spectrum sensors. The holographic Earth changed. Layers of terrain peeled away. Rock. Water. Bedrock. Then structures appeared. One. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Sierra stopped breathing for a moment. Admiral. I see them. Geometric shapes stretched beneath the surface. Some were buried beneath mountains. Others lay beneath deserts. Several existed under major oceans. They were too large to be bunkers, too organized to be mines, and too old to have been constructed after the Veyran fleet arrived. Voss stepped closer. Age? Sierra enlarged the first structure. 36 years. Another. 49. Another. 63. Voss's expression hardened. Keep going. The numbers climb. 70 years. 82. 112. General Therk moved toward the display. They've been preparing underground facilities for generations? Sierra shook her head. Not exactly. What does that mean? These aren't all the same project. She highlighted several structures. Different construction styles. Different power systems. Different materials. Some were built by different governments. Voss stared at the network. Humanity had not built one hidden refuge. Humanity had built many. Over generations. He felt an uncomfortable pressure in his chest. Population readings. Sarah hesitated again. That's where it gets strange. Explain. Our population estimates are falling. How quickly? Too quickly. Voss looked at Earth. The planet's official population was supposed to remain nearly stable. But their sensors were detecting fewer human biological signatures every minute. Where are they going? We don't know. Track them. Sierra worked rapidly. New data filled the display. Millions of heat signatures moved beneath the surface. But there was something wrong. The movement patterns were too uniform. Too clean. Voss noticed it. You're seeing the same thing I am. Sierra nodded. They aren't moving like civilians. Then what are they? I don't know. Voss hated those words more each time he heard them. He ordered the fleet to begin orbital scans. Across Earth, thousands of drones descended through the atmosphere. The humans did not attack. They did not even respond. That silence made Voss more nervous than missiles would have. Then a Veyran drone disappeared. Sierra looked up. Admiral? Where? South Pacific. Destroyed? No. Then what happened? It stopped transmitting. Another drone vanished. Then another. Voss's eyes narrowed. Show me. The tactical display zoomed toward the ocean. Nothing appeared. No weapons. No ships. No explosions. Just empty water. Then the sensor picked up something beneath it. A massive structure. Voss ordered the scan deeper. The structure grew. It was enormous. Far larger than anything beneath the cities. General Therk stared at it. What is that? Sierra's fingers moved across the console. I don't know. Can you identify an entrance? No. A power source? No. A weapon signature? Sierra paused. No. Therk gave a satisfied snort. Then it's useless. Voss looked at him. Or it's something we don't understand. Before Therk could answer, the structure moved. Not physically. Its energy pattern changed. A pulse traveled through the ocean floor. Then another. Then another. Sierra's face went pale. Admiral, I'm detecting synchronized signals. From the structure? No. She pointed toward the planet. From Earth. The same pulse appeared beneath cities. Then mountains. Then deserts. Then the oceans. One planet. Thousands of hidden points. One synchronized network. Voss suddenly remembered Elena Ward's words. You were seeing Earth disappear. He had assumed she meant the population. Now he wasn't sure. Open a channel to the surface, he ordered. Elena appeared moments later. She looked exactly as she had before. Come. Control. Compose. Voss skipped the formalities. How long have those structures existed? Elena said nothing. Answer me. Some longer than your empire has existed. The command chamber went silent. Voss felt something cold move through him. Why? Elena looks toward someone outside the camera frame. Then back at him. Because humans learned a long time ago that anything worth protecting should never depend on a single place. Voss studied her face. You knew we were coming. Elena did not answer. That was answer enough. You have been preparing for us. For you. A faint smile appeared. No. Voss frowned. For what then? Elena's expression became serious. For whoever came first. The transmission ended. Voss stood still. General Therk finally spoke. She is bluffing. Voss looked at the darkening planet. Maybe. Then we should attack. Voss shook his head. Not yet. Therk's voice sharpened. Why? Voss turned toward him. Because I have conquered worlds that knew nothing about us. He looked back at Earth. I have never conquered one that was waiting. A warning tone sounded. Sierra rushed to the console. Admiral. What now? Another anomaly. Where? Everywhere. The holographic Earth flickered. For 1 second, every hidden structure beneath the planet became visible. Thousands of facilities. Millions of underground corridors. A vast network stretching across continents and oceans. Then it vanished. Sierra stared at the empty display. Voss whispered. They wanted us to see that. And somewhere beneath the silent surface of Earth, something began powering up. Humanity had known about the Veyrans for 17 years. Admiral Kale Voss learned this at 3:17 fleet time, and for several seconds he simply stared at the evidence. The transmission was old. Earth had no faster-than-light travel, yet the recording contained detailed observations of Veyran warships across distant systems. Not guesses. Coordinates. Where did this come from? Voss asked. Dr. Sarah Venn enlarged the file. Earth's deep space observatories. That is impossible. I thought so too. Voss turned toward the main display. So they discovered us before we discovered them. Yes. General Therk scoffed. They watched us. So what? Voss ignored him. Why didn't they contact us? Sierra looked uncomfortable. Because their analysis classified the Dominion as an extinction-level threat. Therk laughed. Primitive animals studying us from behind a telescope. Voss finally looked at him. Then why have they built a network beneath their planet? Therk had no answer. Voss ordered Sierra to continue. The next files were worse. Human researchers had mapped Veyran military movements across 17 years. They had identified supply routes. They had identified command ships. They had identified communication patterns. Most disturbing, they had identified the synchronization signals that kept Veyran fleets coordinated. Sierra highlighted one sequence. Every Veyran vessel broadcasts this signal continuously. Voss studied it. It keeps ships synchronized. Correct. And you are telling me humans can read it? They have been reading it for years. Therk stepped closer. Can they interfere with it? Sierra hesitated. No. Voss relaxed slightly. Then she continued? Not directly. The Admiral's expression hardened. Explain. They don't need to control the network. Sierra activated a simulation. A Veyran fleet appeared on the display. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation. Then a second signal appeared. A false synchronization pulse. One ship shifted. Then another. The formation began correcting itself. Not because the humans commanded it. Because the Veyran ships were obeying their own safety protocols. Voss understood immediately. You are saying the humans can make our ships believe the fleet is somewhere else. Not exactly. Sierra enlarged the simulation. They can create a false synchronization event. The ships detect what appears to be a legitimate timing error and automatically compensate. How much? Enough to create confusion. Therk smiled. Confusion is not defeat. No, Voss said quietly. But confusion inside a centralized military network can become defeat. Alarms erupted. A fleet communication node had gone offline. Voss turned sharply. Location? Outer formation. 17 ships. Cause? Unknown. Another alarm sounded. Then another. The tactical display filled with red indicators. 3 groups of Veyran ships were suddenly reporting different fleet positions. Voss ordered them to switch to emergency command frequencies. Some responded. Others did not. General Therk, take the 3rd formation. Understood. Separate your ships from the synchronization network. Therk hesitated. That will make them harder to coordinate. I know. Then why? Because I want to know whether the humans can follow us. Therk gave the order. 36 ships disconnected. Everything stabilized. Then a new message appeared. Authentication failure. Therk's face changed. They are still receiving false commands. Voss looked at Sierra. How? She shook her head. They aren't inside the command network. Then where are they? Sierra stared at the data. The synchronization layer. Voss felt the room grow colder. Humanity had not hacked the Dominion. It had learned how the Dominion thought. And now it was making the Veyrans distrust their own machines. Voss opened a channel to Earth. Elena Ward appeared. This time, Voss did not see a diplomat. He saw an adversary. You studied us for 17 years. Yes. You knew our protocols. Yes. You knew we relied on them. Yes. You planned this before we arrived. Elena's expression remained calm. We planned for the possibility of someone like you arriving. Voss leaned toward the screen. How many times have you tested this? Elena was silent. That silence told him everything. Do you know what happens if I destroy your underground facilities? Elena looked at him. Yes. And? You'll still be exactly where you are now. Voss frowned. What does that mean? It means you are still looking at the wrong problem. The transmission ended. Voss stared at the empty screen. Then he made a decision. Pull the fleet out of orbit. Therk looked shocked. We are retreating? No. Voss looked at the planet. We are changing the battlefield. He ordered every independent formation to abandon the compromised synchronization system. For the first time, the Veyran fleet began operating without its central network. It was slower, less efficient, but it was theirs again. Voss smiled. Now we see what humanity can do. For an hour, nothing happened. No false commands. No disappearing ships. No strange signals. The fleet moved. Therk laughed. You were right to doubt them, Admiral. Voss allowed himself a small smile. Then Sierra whispered. Admiral. What? She pointed toward the navigation display. Our escape route has changed. Voss frowned. I didn't order that. Neither did I. The destination appeared. A region of space marked in ancient Veyran records with a single warning. Black Reach. Voss stopped smiling. He knew the stories. Ships entered. Ships disappeared. No wreckage. No survivors. No explanation. He turned toward Sierra. Who changed the route? She looked at the data. Her voice was barely audible. Someone using our own navigation synchronization. Voss stared at the Black Reach. Then he understood. The humans had never needed to control the Veyran fleet. They only needed to make the Veyrans choose where it went. He opened a channel to Earth. Elena appeared. For the first time, Voss saw fear. Did you send us there? He asked. Elena said nothing. Answer me. Her voice was quiet. No, Admiral. Voss felt a strange relief. Then she continued. We only made sure your systems remembered a route you had already chosen. The channel ended. Voss stared into the Black Reach. For the first time since conquering his first world, he wondered whether the enemy had actually been fighting him at all. Maybe humanity had simply been waiting for him to defeat himself. Admiral Kale Voss had spent his entire career learning how to recognize traps. The Black Reach was the oldest one he knew. It appeared on the tactical display as a region of empty space, almost perfectly circular, where stars seemed dimmer than they should have been. Veyran records contained warnings about it, but no explanation. Ships enter. Ships vanish. No debris. No distress calls. Nothing. Voss stared at the navigation screen. Stop the fleet. The command went out. Nothing happened. Admiral? Sierra Ven asked. Stop every ship. She checked the controls. We have a problem. The fleet is still moving. Override navigation. I tried. Cut the synchronization layer. We already did. Then shut down the ships. Sierra hesitated. If we do that, half the fleet will drift. Do it. Across the fleet, hundreds of ships switched to manual control. The movement slowed. Then stopped. Voss exhaled. For the first time in an hour, he felt in control again. Good, he said. Then the stars ahead changed. A faint distortion appeared across the Black Reach. Sierra magnified it. The darkness was not empty. Something enormous existed inside it. Thin lines of pale light formed a vast pattern around the region. Derek stared. What is that? Sierra searched the ancient records. Her face lost its color. There are references. To what? A quarantine boundary. Voss looked at her. Quarantine for what? We don't know. Sierra shook her head. No, the records are military. Voss ordered every sensor toward the Black Reach. More information appeared. The region wasn't empty. It was sealed. Something had built a perimeter around it thousands, perhaps millions, of years ago. And the Veyran fleet was approaching the boundary. Voss opened a channel to Earth. Elena Ward appeared. For once, she did not smile. Tell me what you know about this place, Voss demanded. Elena looked at the display. Then at Voss. You found it. What is it? A quarantine system. Who built it? We don't know. What is it containing? We don't know that either. Voss stared at her. You expect me to believe humanity knows nothing? We know enough. Then tell me. Elena hesitated. That hesitation was different from her earlier confidence. Voss noticed. What are you afraid of? Her eyes shifted for the briefest moment. Then she answered. That it works exactly the way we think it does. Voss felt the first real chill of fear. What does it do? It prevents certain kinds of civilizations from crossing the boundary. Derek stepped toward the screen. Certain kinds? Elena nodded. Civilizations that expand too quickly. Civilizations that connect conquered worlds into a centralized military network. Civilizations that depend on synchronized command structures. Voss went still. Those were not random conditions. They described the Veyran Dominion. Exactly. You knew. We suspected. You brought us here. No, you brought yourselves here. Voss checked the navigation records. The route had been altered, but the destination had always existed inside their own system. Humanity had not created the route. It had only made the Veyrans choose it. You manipulated us. Yes. I expect you to survive long enough to understand why, Elena said. The connection ended. Voss looked at Derek. Prepare the fleet for withdrawal. Derek blinked. Finally. No. Voss shook his head. We are not leaving yet. Admiral? I want to know whether she is telling the truth. He ordered the fleet to reverse course. Nothing happened. The ships remained still. Then alarms erupted. Sierra's eyes widened. Admiral, something is scanning us. From where? She looked toward the Black Reach. Everywhere. A pulse passed through space. The Veyran fleet systems flickered. One ship transmitted a status report. Then another. Then hundreds. Sierra read the results. It's identifying the fleet. By what? Command structure. Voss understood. The system wasn't attacking. It was evaluating. His empire was being measured. The centralized command network. The conquered worlds. The fleet synchronization. The expansion history. Every feature that made the Dominion powerful was now becoming evidence against it. Can we disable the system? Eric asked. Sierra shook her head. It isn't connected to us. Destroy it. We don't know where the actual system is. Voss stared into the darkness. For 17 years, humanity had watched the Veyrans. Now the Veyrans were finally being watched by something else. Then a new warning appeared. The quarantine boundary was closing. Voss's voice became quiet. How long? Sierra checked the countdown. 11 minutes. Theric turned toward him. Then we fight our way out. Voss almost laughed. Fight what? There was no enemy ship. No visible weapon. No target. Only a boundary closing around them. He contacted Alina again. She answered immediately. Voss looked at her face. You said you weren't certain. I wasn't. About what? Whether your fleet would trigger the system. And now? Alina looked away. For the first time, Voss saw her hand trembling. Just slightly. Then she clenched it into a fist. Now I know. Voss stared. You're afraid. Yes. The honesty shocked him more than any threat. Alina took a breath. But fear doesn't change what we have to do. What do you have to do? She looked directly at him. Send the recognition signal. Voss's eyes narrowed. What happens if it fails? Alina was silent. Then she said, Earth dies with you. The transmission ended. 11 minutes. Voss turned toward Sierra. Can Earth transmit the recognition signal? Sierra shook her head. Not from Earth. Then where? She looks toward the hidden facilities beneath the planet. The signal must come from inside the quarantine boundary. Voss understood. Humanity had placed a transmitter here. Somewhere close enough to risk everything. A final piece of the puzzle had been waiting in the darkness. He looked at Alina's empty screen. Then he gave the order. Find it. For the first time in his life, Admiral Cale Voss was no longer trying to conquer a world. He was trying to help its people survive. And somewhere beyond the stars, something ancient was waiting for humanity to speak. Neither side could predict it. Voss had 9 minutes left. The quarantine boundary continued closing around the fleet, a vast ring of pale light tightening through the darkness. Hundreds of Veyran ships hung inside it, their engines ready, but useless. Find the transmitter, Voss ordered. Sierra then searched every frequency. Nothing. Search again. I am. General Theric stepped forward. Admiral, we are wasting time. We should fire on the boundary. Voss looked at him. Fire at what? Theric had no answer. Voss hated that answer. For the first time, the Veyran Dominion had no enemy to attack. Only a system they did not understand. Then Sierra stopped moving. Wait. What? I found something. A tiny signal appeared on the display. So weak it was almost indistinguishable from background radiation. Voss leaned closer. Location? Sierra brought up a three-dimensional map. The signal was coming from a small object drifting between the Veyran fleet and the Black Reach. Not a Veyran ship. Not an asteroid. A human probe. Theric laughed. That? Sierra shook her head. It isn't transmitting a weapon. Then destroy it. No. Voss turned. Why? Because it is transmitting the same synchronization pattern we use. Silence. Voss understood. Humanity had built something far simpler than a weapon. A translator capable of speaking the system's language. Can we take control of it? Voss asked. Sierra looked at the signal. No. Can we destroy it? Yes. Voss studied the tiny object. Then don't. He opened a channel to Earth. Alina Ward appeared. Her face was pale. The calm expression was still there, but Voss could see the strain behind it. We found your probe. Elena closed her eyes for half a second. Then you were close. You placed it inside the quarantine zone before our fleet arrived. Yes. You used us to test the system. No. Don't lie to me. I am not. Elena looked directly at him. We didn't know whether the system would recognize your fleet. For the first time, Voss believed her. You gambled with 8 billion human lives. We gambled with more than that. What does that mean? Elena hesitated. Because if the signal fails, the quarantine system won't stop with your fleet. Voss felt cold. What will it do? It will classify the entire solar system as contaminated. Sierra looked up sharply. How long until classification? Elena answered. 7 minutes. Theurx were. Voss stared at the human diplomat. So your plan can kill everyone? Yes. And you still activated it. I had no choice. You always have a choice. Elena's expression finally cracked. No, Admiral. We had 17 years to prepare. We had 72 hours to execute, and now we have 7 minutes. Voss saw something he had never expected to see in a human. Fear. Elena was terrified. She simply refused to surrender to it. Voss looked toward the probe. What happens if we help? Elena's eyes widened. You would help us? You need our synchronization signal. Yes. Our fleet can provide one. Sierra understood immediately. If we synchronize with the probe, the system may identify the signal as belonging to the fleet. And if it recognizes us, it may accept the humans as associated rather than hostile. Theurx stepped forward. Admiral, you cannot seriously consider this. Voss turned. Our fleet is already trapped. We can still fight. Fight what? Theurx fell silent. An invisible system that already defeated our navigation. Voss looked at the fleet statistics. 340 ships. 27 assault vessels. 6 command carriers. And beyond them, Earth. Billions of humans. Voss made his decision. Connect the fleet. Sierra stared at him. If the system rejects the signal, we may trigger immediate containment. I know. And if it accepts us? Voss looked at Earth. Then perhaps we both live. The synchronization began. 1 ship. Then 10. Then 100. The human probe responded. Every light vanished. For 3 seconds, there was complete darkness. Then ancient symbols formed across every display. Sierra translated them. Her voice trembled. It says, recognized. Voss released a breath he had not realized he was holding. The quarantine boundary stopped moving. The fleet was free. Voss looked toward Earth. The human probe was still transmitting. Elena appeared again. She looked exhausted. Did it work? She asked. Voss nodded. Yes. Her eyes closed. A small breath escaped her. Relief. Real relief? Then she opened her eyes. Thank you. Voss studied her. You were afraid. Yes. You thought you might fail. Yes. And you still pressed the button. Elena gave him a tired smile. What else was I supposed to do? Voss almost laughed. He had believed courage meant feeling no fear. Now he understood. Courage was making the decision while fear screamed at you to stop. The Veyran fleet began moving away from the Black Reach. Voss ordered the fleet to remain still. I want to know what the humans gained from this. They survived, Theurx said. No, they wanted us to survive too. Sierra checked the incoming data. Admiral, there is something else. The quarantine system transmitted a record. Of what? Sierra opened the file. It contained millions of entries. Civilizations, routes, expansion patterns, warning classifications. Voss read the first entries. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. The Veyran Dominion was already listed. Not as a potential threat. Not as an unknown. As an active classification. Voss looked at Elena. You knew. We suspected. How long? 17 years. Voss stared at her. Why did you wait? Because we needed proof. Of what? That the system still worked. Voss finally understood. Humanity had not built a trap for the Veyrans. Humanity had discovered an old rule. Then it had waited for someone powerful enough to trigger it. The Veyrans had volunteered. Elena looked back at him. You gave us 72 hours. Voss said nothing. We used them. The transmission ended. Voss stood before the silent display. His empire had entered believing Earth was weak. Instead, humans had turned 72 hours into 17 years of preparation. And the Dominion had survived because its supposed enemy chose to save it. Voss looked toward Earth. He saw a species that had been terrified of the stars. A species that had prepared anyway. And somehow, that frightened him more than any weapon ever had. For the first time, he feared what humanity might become next. Admiral Kale Voss watched the Veyran fleet emerge from the Black Reach. 340 warships survived. Yet the Dominion had lost more than ships. Across the command network, conquered systems were refusing orders. Governors demanded explanations. Fleet commanders questioned their superiors. Ancient fear was cracking beneath the weight of a single discovery. Earth had proved the Dominion was not invincible. Voss should have been furious. Instead, he felt respect. Open a channel to Earth. Elena Ward appeared on the main screen. She looked exhausted. Her auburn hair was still tied in its neat ponytail, but loose strands framed her face. Her navy diplomatic suit was creased from hours of tension. Admiral, you could have let the quarantine system destroy us. Because we never wanted to destroy you. Voss almost laughed. You dismantled our command network. We exposed a weakness. You sent us toward the Black Reach. We showed you a route your own systems selected. Voss leaned forward. You knew the quarantine system would recognize us. We hoped. For the first time, Voss understood the human gamble. They had not possessed certainty. They had possessed preparation. What happens now? Another transmission arrived. General Therk appeared on a secondary display. Admiral, 3 more systems have declared independence. Voss closed his eyes. The collapse was spreading. Not because humanity had attacked those worlds. Because humanity had shown them something more dangerous than weapons. Possibility. You planned this, Voss said. No, we planned to survive. What your empire does after that is your decision. Humanity had not conquered the Dominion. It had simply removed the fear holding it together. Voss turned towards Sierra Van. Status. She brought up the latest intelligence. 42 systems have suspended military cooperation. 6 fleet groups have returned home. Therk snap. We must crush the rebellions. Voss looked at him. With what? Our fleet is intact. Our command structure isn't. The general fell silent. Voss looked toward Earth. The planet was peaceful. Bring up the surface scan. Sierra hesitated. Admiral? Do it. A holographic Earth appeared. Cities. Oceans. Mountains. Voss stared. Something still bothered him. The underground structures, disappearing population, synchronized signals, and human probe fit together. Almost. Scan the surface again. Sierra activated the deepest available sensors. Nothing unusual appeared. Again. She repeated the scan. Still nothing. Voss frowned. Why does the population data still not match? Sarah looked at him. We counted 8 billion humans when we arrived. How many are there now? She checked. 7.9 billion. That's impossible. We expected casualties. Not that many. Sarah enlarged the data. The missing signatures were everywhere. Millions of biological signatures had vanished from the surface. Where are they? Sarah searched again. I have another reading. The hologram shifted. The surface remained unchanged. Beneath it, something appeared. Not the facilities they had already discovered. Something deeper. Vast chambers stretched beneath the crust, hidden below their deepest scans. Voss stared. How long? More than a century. Theric stepped closer. So the entire planet was a fortress? No, Voss whispered. It was never a fortress. Elena's face appeared on the screen. She had been watching. Voss looked at her. The cities, the evacuation, the people we thought were moving underground. Her eyes softened. They were never where we thought they were. Where is the real population? Safe. Where? We cannot share that. Voss almost smiled. He realized he had been asking the wrong question. Humanity had not spent 17 years building a fortress. It had spent 17 years building a civilization the Veyrans could never find. The surface cities were part of the deception. Lights, traffic, heat signatures, emergency movements, even the evacuation. Some were real. Some were automated. Some were decoys. The Veyrans had spent 72 hours watching a performance. Humanity had allowed them to believe every second of it. Voss looked back at Earth. Your surface civilization was never the real one. No. Why leave it there? Because an empty planet would have made you suspicious. Voss nodded. Humanity had not hidden Earth by making it invisible. It had hidden it by making the Veyrans believe they could see everything. He looked at Elena. You gave us 72 hours. You gave us permission. Voss remembered the words. Time. Permission. He understood. The ultimatum had forced every human government to activate emergency protocols simultaneously, giving humanity the perfect cover. You never intended to surrender. No. You never intended to fight. No. Then what did you intend? Elena's eyes met his. To make sure you left. Voss had conquered 317 worlds. He had always believed victory meant taking territory, resources, technology, or sovereignty. Humanity had taught him another definition. Sometimes victory meant making an enemy choose to leave. Admiral, Sira said quietly. Voss turned. A message appeared across every command display. We are no longer afraid. Voss looked at Elena. You did not destroy my empire. No. You changed it. Maybe it needed changing. Voss looked once more at Earth. The planet seemed ordinary. He knew better now. Somewhere beneath that surface, humanity was watching. Voss turned toward the navigation officer. Set course for the Dominion. Theric stared. We're leaving? Yes. And Earth? Voss looked back. Leave it alone. The fleet began moving. One by one, the massive Veyran warships disappeared into faster-than-light space. Earth remained behind, silent and peaceful. Deep beneath the surface, millions of hidden lights came alive. Homes, schools, hospitals, factories. A civilization. The real Earth? Elena stood before a window overlooking the underground city. She breathed freely. An officer approached. It's over? For now. Did we win? Elena looked at the stars. We survived. She smiled. That's how humanity wins. Far away, Admiral Kale Voss looked back one final time. Earth was still there. The Veyrans had never conquered it. They had never even found it. They had spent 72 hours staring at a mask while humanity watched from underneath. The Veyrans came to conquer Earth. They left wondering if humanity had ever been where they were looking.